what I want to show you is a few different things that I see in people's paintings sometimes, and I think it is frustrating for people when they paint and it doesn't look exactly right, but you don't always know exactly why it doesn't look right. And so how do you fix it if you don't know why? So what I want to show you is that this one here, this little leaf, is really good, okay? It has a really pretty blend from dark to light, and it's fairly seamless. So the technique I used for this is wet into wet, and I put water down, and then I had two paints. I had a dark green and a light green, and they were a thicker consistency, more like that half and half, and I dropped them in. I made sure my edges were super crisp, and then I blended them together. Here, I did the exact same thing, and then I dabbed it with a damp paper towel. So just like you said about the blueberries, dabbing it with a damp paper towel gives you that kind of bloom, that kind of texture that is hard to achieve otherwise, okay? But now let's talk about these, okay? Because these three don't look very good. This one, let me see if I can even get it. Okay, you see how it doesn't look very good? Too much water in my initial glaze, too much water in my paint. I painted it super fast without taking my time, and I wasn't precise with my brush. Now, I know I didn't really exaggerate it. I just did it, as if super fast, too much water. Has anybody painted something that looks like this? It's really normal in the beginning to paint something that looks like this, okay? Because you don't have the fine motor control yet. You don't have the muscle memory yet. But the best way you can avoid this is to take your time, which I know is like the most boring advice ever, but I promise it helps. So we're going to talk about that. This one is not enough water and the paint is too dry. So if you're getting this result in your paintings where you can kind of see the edges of the paper coming through, it's kind of getting stripy because the paint isn't moving through the water, you need more water either on the paper or in your paint mix. Okay? And then this one. Does this happen to anybody where there's not really a big difference in color in light to dark, but you get kind of a thicker edge around the outside? So this one had the perfect amount of water as a glaze, but then my paint mix was too watery. So when I dropped the paint mix in, it just went all the way through, right? So we don't have, like over here, we have the nice dark to light. We don't have that over here. It just all blended together, and then it took a lot longer to dry, and so the pigment ends up getting pushed out of the way because the paint mix itself was too watery. So good habits to have as you're painting. And I have them here, and I'll take a scan of this for sure. But I want you to consider the size of the thing you're painting. So if we're painting just one of these leaves, think about the size of that leaf. And then when you think about the size, how much water do you need on the leaf? How much water do you need on your brush? How much water do you need in your paint mix? How much water do you need on the paper in the glaze? Think about those things before you start. And then here are just some quick tips that will help. You'll see me do it in just a second, but basically you're going to have lots of small brush strokes. So this is all dry and everything, but from the side, what it looks like to have nice crisp lines is you put your brush down with paint or water, and then you go over it a few times. Now you're not scrubbing it like this, okay? But you're gently pushing the paint down the line where you want it. And that's going to give you a much crisper edge, which I know can be a problem when you're using really high quality cold press paper like this, getting that crisp edge. So lots of small touches. Take your time. You'll get faster the more you do it, but you don't need to be fast. That's not the goal. So take your time. Be precise. Really go to the edges of your drawing, but try not to go over the edges. And you'll see there's a lot of lifting and there's a lot of drying your brush off. Those are really important parts. And it's not as glamorous as, let's do a wet into wet technique, or let's put salt on for texture or something. To say that I dry my brush off a lot, that doesn't sound like, wow, an amazing secret. But I promise it is. It actually is really helpful if you take the time to do that.